Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to make an underwire bodysuit. First off, excuse the mess. Excuse the cat. Elro is having an absolute fit because he's not down here with us. So anyway, what you're going to need. I've already cut all my pieces out. There's a blog entry on spandexsimplified.com that goes over everything you need in much more detail than I'm going to cover on a video. This is just more so you can see the sewing in action. So I've cut out the outer cup pieces. Each has been bonded to swimsuit lining. I've got the inner lining pieces, the front straps, got underwire channeling, elastic, and I've already sewn a zipper into the back of my bodysuit. You don't need a zipper, but for this particular one, I put a zipper in. And the front piece, which is also bonded to lining. So to get started, I laid out all my pieces for the cups and matched them up so that all the top edges are up. And I'm just gonna flip the tops down so we keep everything straight mirror image. And I'm just gonna sew that seam on all 4 pieces. I'm gonna use a serger. You can use a straight stitch and zigzag if you've just got a regular machine. It's all good. See the blog for information on that. Let's go. So I like to put the curved line on top, the bottom of the cup. And you're just going to basically hold, you line up the seam there. You can get a couple stitches going to anchor it. You're just going to hold this so it all lines up at the bottom and stretch to match. And I'm going to do that 4 times. So I'm switching this out to my sewing machine because I'm going to need a zigzag next. But, so now we've got 4 cup pieces sewn. I'm going to put the outer parts so that the right sides are facing down. And the lining pieces so that the right side's facing up. And just line everything up. And then what we're going to want to do for all the seams that we're about to do, we're going to do it so that the cup seam is facing up towards the top of the cup like that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to position them together and zigzag the edges together along the bottom edge and then this top edge where the straps are going to go. Do a really wide stitch for this. So you're basically just rough anchoring the 2 pieces together so it'll act as one. So you're going to take the front bodysuit piece and lay it out so that the cups are this way. So this is the inside of the cup. These are the armholes. You are going to take one of these, fold it in half so you can find the midpoint of the round bottom part. You're just going to pin that to mark that as the halfway point. Now the hole it's going into, again, just fold it in half, find that midpoint. And you're going to pin that cup face down onto it like this. Now if you like, you can pin more. I like to get the one in place. You can also zigzag this edge together to make it, you know, act as one piece better. This I actually bonded a couple weeks ago, so it's not sticking the best right now, but generally speaking, it would hold together. You don't have to line this. I recommend lining it for the use that I'm using this for, which is a Taylor Swift bodysuit, and it's going to be rhinestones, so you want it to support the rhinestones. Anyway, you're going to take this edge and the outer edge here, and you're going to line them up, and you're just going to zigzag that on. So once you get that stitch established there, just pull this to match, like stretch everything together, and stitch right on the edge. And when you get to the pin, unpin it. Hold the other edges together, stretch everything to match. So there's a good chance that your bra cup isn't going to fit perfectly, and that's why you want to ease it to match. This is not going to, it's going to look good once it's all done. But anyway, so there's your first one. So now you just do the same thing again, where you hold everything together. Find that midpoint. And the cup's going in like that. Find that midpoint. Put it down. And you go into that center point there. So just make sure you're getting through all layers, like both your cup and the lining, as well as the pink fabric underneath. Like you don't want stray lining. Then you grab that far end, pull it to the other end of the cup. Trim your thread as off as possible. So as you can see, you've got the two cups sewn in. So next step is to take the underwire channeling. We're going to be sewing to this outside here. So what you can do is, if you have it faced like this, you're going to flip it so that the cups go under. Because you're essentially attaching it to what would be the right side of the cup facing up. You're going to take your underwire channeling. This kind has a right side and a wrong side. The wrong side's kind of nylon-y. The right side's kind of fuzzy. The right side you're going to want facing up. And then now your curve is going to curve away from the curve of your bodysuit. So where this goes like this, you want to aim it so that the curve is going this way. And you're going to line this up on the end. Just straight stitch. It can be hard to get it just kind of in place to start. Well, not hard, but fussy. So anyways, what you're going to do is you're going to flatten this, so basically the bodysuit's molding itself around the bottom edge of the cup. And you're going to stretch this such that the right edge of this, like the inside curve of this seam, is being stretched to match the outer edge of the cup. You're going to stitch to the left side, and you're going to want to keep it really even right near the edge there. The straighter this stitch is and the next stitch, the better, the more even your channel is going to look. So it's just going to be a nicer, what you're doing now is going to be visible on the outside of your bodysuit. So we're just gonna carefully get this going. And it doesn't matter so much if you're not perfectly on the edge for the first little bit, because that's going to get sewn over the elastic. But try to keep it really even from here on out. And also be sure that you pull all this out from underneath it so it doesn't buckle underneath. See, I just had a bit of a run there. Okay, so then you just want to double check that everything looks relatively even. Trim your ends. Now the thing is, generally speaking, you want to reduce bulk in your seams. I don't recommend trimming this back for bulk because this is getting flipped against the bra cup and you're stitching that seam down and making your channel. If you cut this excess out from underneath it, you're going to see it here. You're going to see the wavy edge where the seam is and everything. So it's best just to leave it, I find. Right? So anyways, you've got your first one sewn in. Now you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Flip it. Elrow, oh my god. Lining this up once again so the curves go in different directions. And that's just so once it flips, the curve is the way it's supposed to go. I swear my cat is not as abused and neglected as he would like you to think. There's some buckling underneath, so I'm just making sure that all the fullness is out of that. Before I continue. That I kind of went off a little bit, so that's going to show. Just kind of slipped. And if your underwire channeling isn't perfectly even to start, it's like, I mean, you practice, you know, like you'll get better as you do it. I haven't done this in like 12 years, so I'm not the best at it right now, but I can still show you how to do it. Once you get a feel for it, it gets a lot easier. Okay, so there you've got the underwire channeling started in both sides. So we're just going to stitch that down. So what we're going to do is we're going to be stitching on the inner side now. You're going to make sure to pull all this excess fabric out to the right so that you've got a nice tight curve around there. Otherwise you're going to get lumps and bumps and just weirdness. So again, because this is forming the channel that your underwire is going to go in, you're going to want to be like use the edges of your underwire channeling as a guide so you've got a nice even channel the whole way. Oh, except for that first little bit because that was extra. So see, I stretch everything and then sew on the edge. Tight. this excess you can cut away if you want, because that's not going to show on the other side. I'm not going to bother for this just because I don't want this to be a 2-hour long video. But then as you can see there, you've got a nice, relatively even, that's where I said I kind of dropped it there. But that's going to be enough for the underwire channel to get through. It's just not going to look as nice as if I'd kept it all even, you know? So now we're going to do the other side. Okay, I'm just pulling everything tight. So you've got your 2 underwire channels done. I'm going to switch over to the serger at this point, but again, for everything I'm about to show you, you can use a regular machine with just straight stitch and or zigzag. Okay, so now with the underwire sewn in, we're going to start sewing the bodysuit together. So I've got the back part. Now you're going to want to sew the back seam one way or the other, whether you've got a zipper in it or not. Just basically have it so that your back is one piece. And you're going to sew the side crotch and side seams. So there's that. Now something I want to mention is where I did not use a pattern specific to doing underwire, and I altered this as I go into in the blog entry. I have this little bit of a lip here I didn't try to guesstimate where this was going to be. So now that I've got the side seam in, I'm just going to trim that. And I'm going to trim a little bit of that underwire casing. Just to be a straight, the curve. But just so it's got a natural continuation to it, I guess. It's like that. That's going to get tidied up when I put the elastic in. Anyway, now that I've got all that done, I'm going to sew the straps on. So because of the style I'm doing for this one, actually, did I end up measuring this? I think I just cut this raw. Yeah, I'm going to trim this slightly. But I'm doing a wide strap that's got 2 elastics, one on either side. If you're doing just like a covered elastic strap, you can do that too. It's going to be the same basic idea. You're just going to go more with how you'd normally deal with that. So anyways, I'm going to sew this to that top edge of the bra cup. The other one. Now I'm just doing a basic overview for the technique and timing and whatnot. If you use a pattern that's actually specifically for this, certain things will be a little bit different, but you'll get the basic idea. Now I turn it all inside out, and I'm going to sew the top of the shoulder strap on both sides. And again, just make sure you're sewing through all layers. So I've got 2 layers of spandex and 2 layers of lining. Just make sure you get through everything. And there's our basic bodysuit. So next up is elastic. So we're going to start the elastic the same way that I've detailed my elastic video. So I've already pre-measured these 2 pieces to be basically from the hip to the bottom when folded like that. So we're going to throw that in. If you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag for this. So I'm not going to go over the instructions for doing this. If you don't know how to do the elastic, just go check out the video on elastic insertion, because otherwise it's going to be a very, very long video. So that lining is a bit longer, so I'm just going to trim it back a little bit. I get very lazy with cutting, just because I know I've got a serger, so I can kind of fix it as I go. So we got the elastic in there. Now we're going to sew in the arms. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat that outer bra cup just as we would any other armhole insertion for elastic. And I measured the elastics as I detailed in the elastic video. So I'm going to start at the shoulders and do the elastic insertion. And you're going to sew right over top of that underwire channeling. So what I like to do for this part of the strap here is I'll guess like to there. So it's got a little bit of stretch. This is going to be totally personal, however much stretch you want. I want it to lay a little bit flatter, so I'm going to stretch that and say that's about as much elastic as I want there. And then this gives a tighter edge here, like a smaller amount of elastic. So I'm going to pull it tighter along the outside of the bra cup. So you can see there it gathers more. Oh, I missed some of the... This is why you want to make sure to get all of your layers at once. I'm just going to tidy that up. It's a lot nicer if you just zigzag over it, but I'm not switching for just that. So anyways, as you can see, it's a little bit tighter just in the cup there. That's going to prevent any spillage, really. And then nice and smooth up the back. Now we're going to do the other side. So once I get it locked in place, I find the halfway point. I'm holding that to the side seam. You can pin this here if you want. And then again, I'm establishing how stretched I want that first part. And then, you know what? Yeah. Then I'm stretching the rest of it. And then once I get to that halfway point, oh, I dropped it early. Whatever. So I get to that halfway point, grab the elastic, meet it up with the front. So you see this time I got it. But you'll see it's about the same where it's the other side, it's got a tighter stretch there, bit of a looser stretch there, more smooth across the back. This was actually a bit more tight. So that's that. So now before we go any further, we're going to be flipping all the elastic that we just put in and stitching it down with the zigzag. Okay, so again with how I did in the how to attach elastic video, I'm just going to be flipping this edge, all 4 edges, and stitching it down with the zigzag, the wide zigzag, medium length. Not much to say on that, so let's just speed through that. Okay, so now we've got all that done. So what I should mention now that I sped through all of that, you're going to want to make sure that you keep everything tight around the edge, especially when it comes to your underwire channeling, because there is more bulk involved there. Because of the angle, the bulk tends to be offset to the side, like it won't be necessarily right over itself, but you're going to want to make sure that's fully enclosed. And I also like to, for me, I like to sew this so that the seam at the top of the bra cup is facing down towards the bra cup. Whatever you do, like you can sew it facing up. Whatever you do, you're going to want to make sure you do it on both sides just so it looks right when it's finished. Anyways, now on to the underwire. So this is going to work a little bit backwards from how I normally do bras, because normally what I do is I do the center part, sew that all down, put the underwire in, and then do the outside. But because of the arms, it's just easier to do it this way for this kind. So you're going to take your underwires and you're going to establish which is the inside. So this is where the cleavage, and this is where the armpit is, right? So usually what I do is I feed it in like the center part first. So that's the lower side. It usually has like a color on the edge. This has a little bit of yellow. So usually I feed it in this way, but this way we're going backwards. So we're taking the taller end of it and we're feeding it in from the center of the bodysuit. So you're just going to find that little channel. Feed it in all the way to the other side. And you're going to want to push it in a little bit tighter. So you've got about 1 inch at the end here that can fold over. You can redistribute it later, but you want that very clear of your sewing area while you go, because you're not going to want to put your sewing machine needle through that. So now that we've got that one in, I'll take the other one, and same thing where we're going to put the higher end, that's the armpit, in first. Feed that in. And just press it further. So here we've got the two underwires. So I'll show you what that looks like from the inside. So see how it's nice and smooth now. If I'd had cut any of the excess fabric away from the seam allowance, you'd see ridges here instead of just a smooth transition. So now we're going to sew the elastic in. I've switched over to my serger again. Again, you can use your zigzag for this either way. Just lay everything out right. So I'm going to measure the elastic as a straight line from the center front to the shoulder to the center back. I've already cut this elastic, but to show you. Center back, shoulder, center front, shoulder. Fold it in half and I can trim a little bit. So now we're going to get that sewn on. So what I like to do is pin the center of the elastic to the center of the bodysuit, just for even distribution. And then now what I also recommend for this is to remeasure from the center of your bodysuit to the shoulder seam. And pin there. And then just do the same on the other side. And you can even just keep the same. Then what I'm doing here is where this seam is flipped a certain way because of how the first elastic went in, I'm just going to do the same when I pin it down. Make sure you don't have any twists in the fabric. And pin it down. Now you're going to take your end, position it, make sure there's no twists in it, and we're just going to serge. On my foot pedal. So stretch everything to match. Now we got to here, stretch everything to match. And what I'm doing here is just making sure that that seam gets flipped down the same direction it is with the elastic there. I'm folding that zipper back in the end. And then just check your work, make sure you got that pink in the seam the whole way. And we're going to stitch it down. Now, generally speaking, and I get into this in the elastic video, I generally prefer to sew from the top down when flipping elastic. When it comes to underwire, I like to do it so that I can see the elastic side of it and sewing down here, just because I want to make sure when I get to this underwire that I can see what's going on here, that I'm not going to hit the underwire itself, that everything's contained, etc. Okay, so we've got that wide zigzag with a medium length. That seam's established. And once again, just with my elastic, I make sure to pull all excess fabric out from behind so it's nice and smooth right under the elastic itself. And you're aiming for this outer, like what was the outer edge and is now the inner edge. Cool. I need a new power cord or something. This is ridiculous. And see now where we had that in the same direction, it's nice and flat there. And then once again, push your underwire as far as you can get it out of the way. instead of like sewing over it. Make sure that lays nice and flat and out of the way. Let me see, jeans having a little bit of a fit with that bulge there. That was not underwire, that's just too much volume. I ran out of, oh, no. Never mind, I'm gonna have to redo that. I ran out of bobbin thread very early on that. Give me a second, I will rethread that. Okay, so now because I ran out of thread right before my favorite section, by favorite I mean no, I'm gonna have to redo that. And again, just make sure all that underwire is out of the way. And very carefully sew across everything. My machine is groaning at me for it. Okay, we made it. Not as tight as I would like it. I'll just trim all my threads now. If my big mess up. And there you go. Now the big thing to keep in mind is depending on how your strap is, your elastic application might be a bit different than how I did it. Just because if you had like an elastic that was covered with spandex instead of a two elastic strap here, you would have attached it and then done the elastic like you would have done a bikini top. So wrapping it around that strap and then continuing on. But there you go, you are done. If you did an invisible zipper like I did, you might want to throw a snap in at the top, like just a little hook and eye. Sorry, not a snap, a hook and eye, just to make sure that you keep that closed and the stress off the invisible zipper. But that is a discussion for my how to insert invisible zippers set of blog and video. So anyway, we are done. You have an underwired bodysuit.